Hi guys, this is video 3. So what we've done so far is level the bed. So we're now ready to print. If we haven't already, then we need to insert our SD card into the printer, which I'll do now. So that comes out of our USB stick. And it goes in this little slot here with our SD files on. Great, okay, so I've leveled this bed manually with the process outlined in video 2, and I've just finished raising the corner of this corner to make sure that the nozzle is a paper width away from the bed. What we do next, or what I do next, is click on the dial and send the nozzle back to its home position, so auto home. Now, just bear in mind, for the bed leveling, we had to disable the stepper motors so we could move the bed and the head of the printer freely. As soon as you click auto home or input any movement via the computer here, the motors will come back into action automatically, so there's no need to turn them back on. Right, now, the key thing to do before we heat up the printer, I don't think it's necessary, but I do it anyway, it's just to raise the nozzle away from the bed such that if any of the plastic comes through and starts coming out the nozzle during the warm-up process, it doesn't clog up the nozzle. You will hopefully be given a spare nozzle when you buy the printer, or two. As of yet, I've not needed to use them. This nozzle has been working fine. So we can do this manually. If we click the dial in, again go to prepare and move axis, and I'll move it up in the Z axis, say by 30 millimeters, and that brings the nozzle away from the bed at a nice height, such that if any of the plastic comes down through the head, I can use the pliers provided to simply cut it off. Right, so this is a video for printing our part. So if I go back to the main screen, prepare main, so back at the main screen, so we've put our SD card in the slot, and now we want to load the file and begin the print. So if we click the dial in, and if the card isn't recognised, we'll have to initiate the card. I'm not sure what TF stands for, but I've always assumed it means SD. There you go, so the screen has recognised it. It now says we can print from the card if we want. If it doesn't do that, it simply means that the card needs reformatting, and what you do then is simply take the card out, back in the USB stick, that goes into the PC, and you should have a window that pops up automatically to ask you to reformat it. You have to wipe the data and reload the file back onto the card, but it really isn't a big problem. Once you do that and you reinsert the card back into the printer, it should then recognise it. Right, so let's go back to where we were. If we go print from TF, print from the card, again, these are my files on here. If they're not showing, you might want to press refresh. It's quite self-explanatory. So we'll go ahead and we'll print a phone holder. So in my file, which I'll show in a separate video, I did ask for the temperature to be at 205 and 60 degrees. Now, somewhere between the software I use and the printer, the target temperature up here of 205 has been lost. That might be because I use a different slicer software than the software provided by Creality. I use one by Ultimaker, only because it's got a nicer user interface, and with this hobbyist 3D printing, you'll find that all softwares are compatible with generally all printers, so it doesn't really matter as long as the file output is an STL file output, and importantly the software knows that you're using the Creality printer, which I'll explain in different videos. So we need not worry in this situation. We can simply put the target temperature in via this computer. So if we go to tune, and here we can change the temperatures and the speed and the different parameters that the printer operates under. So if we go into nozzle, we simply turn the dial up and we'll raise it to 205, which is the nominal temperature that PLA likes to melt and print in. So, right, our bed's at 60. That's all I change. It says a fan speed of 0 there, but you will notice the fan on here and on your printer will be spinning, so I don't change that either. Okay, so if we go back to the top, back to the info screen, you can see now that the target temperature of 205 is set and the bed still remains at 60. So if I just come down here, we might see the plastic start to come out of the nozzle. Because at this point, the nozzle is raising in temperature, and any residual PLA that is sitting in the reservoir above the nozzle, or indeed in the guide, may start to melt and come out. You can see that the printer hasn't started yet to feed the plastic through. We will only do that when the temperature has been reached. So it's not quite there yet. Okay, so it generally takes less than a minute to heat up, which is the beauty about 3D printing. It's very quick. Nothing's come through yet. Now, if there is an excess of material coming through, I will use these pliers to remove it, but it really doesn't matter too much. It will simply just pull up on the home position before it starts printing. Now, while that gets the temperature it nearly does, I'll just explain that before every print, the printer will always go through the same process of printing kind of along the side of the bed here, which is a nice visual check for you to make sure that you've got the printer head at the right height away from the bed. Sometimes you might have to repeat the bed leveling process to make sure that we've got a nice bead. Okay, so temperature's now done, heating done. It's come down into the home position, and it will start to, as I mentioned, run along the bed. It's difficult to see the nozzle exactly here, but you can see that there is a new line of PLA coming out. Okay, now I'm pretty happy with that bead. The printer has now started printing, and that is as simple as it is, guys. Now, I do pay attention to the print for the first minute or so. It's important that obviously each corner of the bed is at the right height and that we get a nice print. What I'm seeing here is a good example. Is actually the bed is too far away from the nozzle. You can see that the print isn't sticking down on the mat and the PLA is coming away. So yeah, even with myself, who's done this loads of times, it doesn't always work out first time. So what we need to do in that situation is simply click the button and we can pause the print or we can stop the print. So if I stop the print, and it will then put the temperatures back to 0. It will tell me it's aborted the print. I will auto home. So you put the nozzle back to the start position, and I will go about repeating the process of leveling the bed and trying to print again. Before I do that, it would be worth us cleaning the mat. So if I just turn off the printer, just raise this slightly, whoops. Like I say, the mat comes off quite easily. I'll let it cool down slightly. It's okay to touch, and this should just peel away, and you can go again next time round.